Hey friend, you ever notice how anxiety is like that one overly dramatic friend who always assumes the worst? You know, the one spills a little coffee and suddenly this is the beginning of the end. That's my brain most days. Except instead of coffee, it's, what if I said something weird 7 years ago and they still think about it? For years, I treated anxiety like a shadow I couldn't shake. It followed me everywhere. Work meetings, first dates, even the grocery store. I once spent 15 minutes in the cereal aisle, panicking about whether buying the store brand made me look cheap to the other shoppers. Spoiler, nobody cared. They were busy debating their own oatmeal to Cheerios ratio. But anxiety doesn't come with an off switch. It's more like a smoke alarm with dying batteries that won't stop chirping. It's there to warn you, but sometimes it screams fire when someone's just making toast. Let me tell you about a particularly chaotic day. I had this big presentation at work. I prepped for weeks, rehearsed every line, and even watched a TED Talk about how to stand like a superhero to fake confidence. The morning of, my anxiety showed up like an uninvited guest at a party, loud, obnoxious, and refusing to leave. What if I trip walking up to the podium? What if I forget my words? What if they all realize I'm just faking it? By the time I got to the office, I was sweating so much I could have powered a small hydroelectric dam. When it was my turn to speak, my brain decided to remind me of everything that could go wrong, all at once. But here's the wild part. I did it anyway. My hands were shaky, my voice cracked a little, and I even dropped my clicker halfway through. But guess what? Nobody cared. In fact, people came up afterward and told me how relatable and human I seemed. That's when I realized something. Anxiety is a liar. It tells you the worst case scenario is the only scenario, but it's rarely right. Sure, you might stumble or say the wrong thing, but that doesn't mean the world will implode. Most of the time, people are too busy worrying about their own stuff to notice. Now, don't get me wrong, anxiety didn't just vanish after one awkward presentation. It still shows up uninvited, like a nosy neighbor peeking over the fence. But I've learned to live with it instead of fighting it. When it starts whispering, "What if you fail?" I've started answering, "What if I don't?" And let me tell you, that little shift is a game changer. I've also picked up a few tricks along the way. Like, did you know taking slow, deep breaths actually works? Yeah, I used to think that was a scam too, but it turns out oxygen is kind of a big deal for your brain. Who knew? Also, writing down your anxious thoughts can be hilariously therapeutic. There's something about seeing, "What if the neighbor's cat secretly hates me?" on paper that makes you realize how ridiculous it sounds. Look, I'm not here to tell you anxiety is easy to deal with. It's not. Some days it feels like trying to tame a squirrel on espresso, but what I can tell you is this. You're stronger than you think. You've survived 100% of your worst days so far, and that's a pretty impressive track record. So the next time anxiety knocks on your door, don't let it move in rent-free. Acknowledge it, maybe even laugh at it, but don't let it run the show. Because life's too short to spend it in the cereal aisle, second-guessing your frosted flakes